Okay. So let us do this. Let me turn on my controller. Let me see if it works. It does. And we shall continue. Hold on, let me see. Just want to make sure everything is right. Okay, we're ready to go. Okay. So, we're back here. Daphne is going to the party. And I guess it's about to be nighttime. My head is itchy for some stupid reason. Let's see. The garden. What was the voice I was using for? I can't do a female voice. I've tried. The gardens. That's funny. The gardens of this. I'm just gonna sound like this. The gardens of the city hall are magnificent, with their trees donned in the flaming colors of fall. There's already a lot of people hanging around in small groups, drinking glasses of wine leisurely. The guests are all dressed up to the nines, and the luxury of the event looks more like a big wedding than a town gathering in a small countryside village. The Maltairs clearly didn't balk at the expenses. I have barely enough time to ask for a cup of champagne at the buffet before I'm approached by a large man in a black suit. He's closely followed by a tall and haughty blonde woman. I can reasonably deduce she's his wife. Yves Maltaire.
Oh, good evening, miss. You must be the new owner of the castle. I'm glad you came to our little party. I must confess, I was eager to learn a bit more about the new owner of the castle. Let me introduce you to my wife.
Man, I cannot pronounce that name. Clotilde? 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 I'm trying to sound French. Clotilde Maltaire. Good evening, miss. That's really bad. Daphne, pleased to meet you. Her icy handshake contrasts sharply with the friendliness of her husband. I can read a mix of contempt and distaste in her eyes. Weird.
Looks like my daughter, Celine, has been ambushed by our elder Mr. Maury.
He points towards a pretty young blonde woman on the other side of the path. She's leaned toward an old man in a wheelchair who has caught her by her wrist and seems determined not to let her go for as long as decency will allow.
About my son, I heard you've already met him.
Yes, I did.
Since we're done with introductions, allow me to get straight to the point. I must admit my invitation wasn't totally innocent. As you're about to see for yourself, later, during the opening ceremony, we're very concerned about preservation of our cultural heritage here in the village. And as you may have heard, our relations with your grandmother were... how could I put it?
I feel like she would be this. Listen, Ives, something tells me you're about to ask me something, and I don't think it's the right time.
Yes, you're right. It's neither the right place nor the right time to talk. I'll leave you enjoy your dinner. Or your evening. But we'll have to talk later. I have an offer that I think will be splendidly beneficial for the both of us.
She's all stressed out. I think she doesn't want another thing on her plate right now. It can wait. All right. but shouldn't we talk at a more appropriate time?
Of course, of course. You're right. We'll see each other later in the cold light of day.
Really?
Enjoy your evening.
You too. Have an excellent evening, Mr. Mayor. Yves Maltaire disappears into the crowd. Now that I know the other members of the family are who the other members of the family are, I'll be able to question them directly. Celine is still struggling with the old man, and Clotilde, her mother, seems to have taken advantage of her husband's departure to get to the buffet. And after all, nothing forces me to engage in social niceties. I can also decide if I've seen enough and go home. What should I do? Go for the free food, girl. If you're gonna be there, at least get some food. Clotilde Maltaire is chatting with a group of people smartly dressed, a vague smile on her lips. Her face is very hard to read. Is she attending this function reluctantly? Or is her distant and haughty attitude really revealing of her personality? Seeing me approach, she apologizes to her guest and takes me aside. Miss Maltaire. Listen, okay. You know what? I'm just gonna sound like this. Listen, girl, I'm talking with Dr. Zakarian and his wife. If you haven't been raised well enough to understand common decency, I hope you'll excuse me my being straightforward, but I'm afraid I have neither the time nor the urge to help you correct your lackings. So if you don't mind, I'll go back to my guests and you, I don't know, enjoy the buffet. I wish you an excellent evening.
Ooh. How rude. How rude. Oh, let's get worked up. Ooh, oh, the moon turned red.
What? Excuse me? Wasn't I clear enough to say it in a way you might understand? Off you go. Bye-bye. Tell me, what did I do to you to justify such hostility? You're a delator, and the apples don't fall far from the tree. So you haven't done anything yet, but I'm no fool. I know that sooner or later, your presence at the castle is going to generate a catastrophe. My husband entertains the romantic idea that you would be different, that you weren't raised here, and that we should hold out our hand to the delators at the risk of being bitten again. You understand that I'm not of the same mind. The Maltaires are self-made men, and not like you, who always had everything. You may choose to ignore it, but you really were born with a silver spoon in the mouth. If you say so. Don't try to hide behind the self-importance or a fake feeling of superiority, miss. It doesn't suit you at all. And stop kidding yourself. Even your pretty dress has a hard time hiding your evident lack of grace. Stop insulting me. Tell me why you hate me so much. Ask the slut you call your mother. Where is she? She wasn't brave enough to finish what she started, was she?
Oh, defend my mother, defend my family. Nobody talks about my mother like that, even if I haven't talked to her in 5 years.
My mother is not a slut. Really, that's a bit rich. You may come over heavy-handed and you didn't even inform yourself. Why do you think Sophie left? Think about this for a change. I'm not responsible for whatever my mother might have or not have done 30 years ago. That's madness. 30 years ago, you're so off the mark, and yet there's only one possible issue, and it's the end of one of our families. What are you afraid of? My mother and I are the last Delators still alive. The castle is threatening to become a ruin, and you have the city hall, your sawmill, and more money than you can count. For as long as you have that castle, you'll be a threat. But why? It's about what's inside the tower? I've already said too much. Enough. Stop making a scene. You look ridiculous. I wish I could bid you farewell, but I'm afraid we're not rid of you yet, girl. With no further ado, she turns around, leaving me hanging there to go back to her guests. What should I do next?
Let's see if her daughter's less crazy.
Seeing me approach, Celine sizes her chance and finally manages to extricate herself from the claws of Mr. Mori. I can see for an instant a mix of gratitude and relief in her eyes. Then she comes towards me with a large smile.
Oh man, I don't even know what voice to give this girl.
You must be Daphne Delator. I'm Celine Maltaire, Stanislas' older sister. Pleased to meet you. All the pleasure is mine. I was looking forward to meeting you. Stan told me you were charming. Stan told you about me? Really? He told you about me? He did. And I apologize in advance for his behavior. I know how he can be around women. He might resent me telling you this, but I think he's quite got a crush on you.
Ooh.
Ugh. He's barking up the wrong tree. I'm afraid he's barking up the wrong tree. I'm sorry, but Stanislas is not really my kind. Ah. Okay then. I get it. Too bad. But it was worth a try, wasn't it? Oh, and sorry to put you on the spot. It's a big sister thing. I can't refrain myself. You know, he never got lucky in love, and I don't know why, but I felt like it could have worked out with you. She bursts out laughing. But enough talking about my brother. Tell me more about yourself. What are you doing for a living? Do you like it here in the village? We talked for a good 20 minutes. Celine seems nice and outgoing, but I have a hard time deciding if it's not just a facade. And I seem to lose her attention several times, until, without notice, she leaves me hanging there to engulf herself inside the city hall. I realize there's a kind of sway in the crowd. The guests are gathering around a tribune. I guess the unveiling ceremony is about to begin. Someone is walking against the current, splitting the crowd in my direction.
Daphne?
It's Stanislas. He's carrying a glass of wine. He seems a bit drunk.
You came nice.
Not now. I don't have time to deal with this. Leave me alone, please.
Something tells me you're going to hate me for that, but I've been wanting to do this since I saw it for the first time this summer at the bakery.
Without notice, he takes me in his arms and tilts me backwards. I look into his eyes and I understand perfectly well what is about to happen. I'm trying to hold him back, but his lips end up on mine. Luckily, I'm saved by a rasping voice that stops Stanislas in his track.
Ah, is corrupting our youth enough for you?
Beatrice Levesque is standing next to us and looks at me with a look of anger and reprobation. Yeah, we're gonna calm things down right now. Calm down, Miss Levesque. I was just about to leave. If you could just... Beatrice doesn't wait for me to finish my sentence before throwing the contents of her glass of red wine at my face. That's for you, dirty... Surprised by the aggression, I step backward and fall over and feel a sharp pain in my left hand. My cheeks get flushed. I have like a ball of heat radiating inside my chest. Dirty what? Dirty witch? Is that what you wanted to say? Stanislaus helps me get up. I feel something warm and moist dripping along my finger. I realize I must have cut my hand in the fall. See? I'm injured. Are you happy? Oh, since you're so sure that I'm a dirty witch, then I curse you. You're going to pay for what you did to me tonight. Is that what you were waiting for? Are you satisfied? If I'm a spellcaster, as you say, why not put my powers to good use?
Daphne, your hand. Blood has been drawn. Careful with what you're about to...
I have the perverse satisfaction to see Miss Levac turning white as a sheet. I hold her gaze until she gives up and turns on her heels. Stan puts his hand on my shoulder and shakes me gently.
Daphne, do you realize what?
I cut him off and lash out. Ah, that's enough now. Leave me alone. I stride into the bathroom to wash my wound, mop up the wine from my face, and most of all, try to calm down. In the distance on the tribune, Yves Maltaire has taken the microphone and is about to speak.
My dear friends, neighbors, and fellow citizens, we got together to celebrate the start of the fall season. As you all know, by tradition, this time of the year is dedicated to reflection and remembrance. It's a time when we think about our lost relatives who are waiting for us on the other side. But it's also the time of offering when we pray to the invisible entities for a mild weather. That's why our craftsmen have worked hard during the summer for this celebration, so that we would be ready in time to show you the fruit of our efforts. As we're leaving summer behind to winter, this time of offering, as I said, seems like the appropriate time to renew our pact with our protectors. Those invisible forces who allowed our traditions to survive century after century, not to disappear because of invasions or external influences, and who bring us luck, happiness, and prosperity every year. So I'm proud to present you a physical representation of our pact. This statue, symbol of our community that has been deteriorated by the years and the weather, and has been now made anew by the masterful hand of our local craftsmen. Ladies and gentlemen, let me present you the Sphinx. Oh, it's the Sphinx from the dream. Chapter 4. November. Jean Chestnut, she's been transferred to intensive care yesterday night, and she died earlier today. The doctors have done all they could, but they said her chances of survival were next to none. How did I get here? How did I get there? Though we're already well into November, I feel like this cocktail happened yesterday. When Yves Maltaire unveiled this statue of the Sphinx that looked exactly like the one I saw in my dream, I felt as if I was struck by lightning. I had before me the confirmation of this tenacious intuition that's been following me since I've arrived here at the village. This feeling that there was something, somewhere, that would give meaning to all this. Something I was brushing against with my hand, but was gliding around my fingers like a trickle of water. Unfortunately, I got caught up in everyday life very fast. The trimester is already coming to an end, and I've been
buried under the pile of papers to grade. Frank went back to the city 3 days ago. A job there he needs to overlook. He told me he wouldn't be back before at least the end of the month. I was surprised he came to tell me he was leaving. It made me realize it's been a while since I saw him last. I don't know what to think about this long trip, though. Is he already thinking of leaving the village for good? And then Stan tried to call me. Well, by calling me, I mean that my voicemail has been saturated by his messages. He was begging me to pick up, that we had to talk. I didn't dare answering. I don't know what would have happened if I had left him a chance.
Miss Delatour, are you okay? You look upset.
What happened exactly? How did she get in this accident?
Here's what her sister told me. Beatrice Levesque has taken the cliff road to pick up her son Jean-Baptiste after his soccer game. The car seems to have skidded on a patch of ice.
It's horrible. And to think about her son.
Yes, and you're the head teacher of his class. I can count on your vigilance. Jean-Baptiste is going to need our support to get through this. Besides, I'm sorry to talk about it in these circumstances, but I wanted to see you anyway. I know you're only here for 6 months, and that you're probably doing the best you can. But how can I put it? Your methods leave something to be desired. I don't think you're really cut out for this job. Ooh. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
I don't know what to say.
In that case, don't say anything, but do something about it. I'm counting on you to correct the situation.
Very well.
All right. We've gone through the main topics, but would you allow me to ask you something a bit personal?
Rather not. I'd rather not. Looks like it was a rhetorical question, since he goes on anyway, as if he didn't even hear me.
Stop me if I'm wrong, but how could I put it? People talk. I've heard you had words with Miss Levesque at the cocktail party. Did you by any chance... I don't know how to say it. Well, no need to beat around the bush. Did you by any chance, and let me insist on by any chance, have any part of responsibility in Miss Levesque's accident?
Wow, really? Yeah. Absolutely not. And don't tell your... And, I guess they missed a word here. And don't tell me you're giving any credit to this gossip. I'm a woman of science, and I condemn any of this backwards beliefs. Let's be serious for a minute, shall we? What are you thinking? That I pin needles to a voodoo doll of Mrs. Levesque in the privacy of my attic during full moon nights? I'm very sorry for what happened to this poor woman, but the cause of the accident is not so serious. We're talking about a physical phenomenon that happens every winter and that has a tendency to change liquid water into ice, a solid which has the unfortunate property of making cars skid out of control. That said, if you don't mind, I'm not done with my day, so if you will excuse me...
So sorry if I have upset you, Mrs. Delatour. It wasn't my intention.
Mr. Chastanet. As if today wasn't emotionally charged enough, when I get to the castle, I discover a sports car parked in front of the house. Of course, I've already guessed the identity of its owner. Walking to the hall, I find Stanislas inside, sipping leisurely from a glass of whiskey while nonchalantly looking at the family portraits. My heart skips a bit at the notion of seeing him here in my living room. I feel a bit like an idiot, and I try to pick myself up before calling to him. I would have offered you a drink, but it looks like you've already taken the matter into your own hands. I pour myself a decent swig at the strong alcohol and light up a cigarette.
It was open, so I let myself in, and I don't regret it since I've been waiting for you for a while, already at my second refill. Besides, I thought school teachers ended their day much earlier, don't they?
I've been delayed.
Daphne, we need to talk.
Kiss? Why would I kiss him? Why would I kiss him? We have no connection. No, I don't want to talk to you. If not answering your repeated calls wasn't clear enough, allow me to put it bluntly. I don't want to see you.
Okay, I guess my intentions are quite limpid, but I didn't come to, well, to be honest, I didn't come only for this. Give me a half an hour. After all that happened, I had to warn you. You really need to know about our family, the village, and everything else.
I let a sigh out of my chest. All right. Say what you have to. Stan takes a big breath, then starts.
Of course, there's my father. His projects and his old quarrel with the De La Tours, and his sick obsession with the tower. But when I learned about Beatrice Levesque, that's when I realized the urgency of the situation. When I saw you do what you did at the cocktail party, I remember everything I've been hearing since I was a child. All these unbelievable stories of witchcraft. I never had a real proof that any of this was true, but when I heard she was dead, well, it's been haunting me all day. I had to tell you. Forgive my bluntness, but I have to ask, did you know what you were doing back then?
Don't tell me you're also giving credit to these witches' stories.
Don't you find it unsettling?
Beatrice Levesque died in a car accident. Patches of ice have nothing to do with magic. God damn it!
Daphne, it's been what, 3 months since you arrived?
I don't see how it changes the fundamental laws of physics.
I was born here. I've been hearing these stories for 30 years. It's not the first inexplicable accident I've witnessed. Not the first strange coincidence I've seen.
Very well. Let's say, for argument's sake, that I've cursed Mrs. Levesque. You realize it means I've killed her.
That's not what I was saying. You didn't know what you were doing.
Maybe, but try to understand that this witchcraft stuff goes against everything I believe. And that makes me, if any of this is true, responsible for the death of the mother of one of my students. I'm overwhelmed by emotions that I've realized I've been holding my tears back since the director broke out the news. I burst into tears and Stan takes me in his arms. I let him... I can't believe we got so close this fast, Stanislas and I. I need a couple of minutes to calm down. When he's sure most of the storm is behind us, Stan gently lets go of his hug and, looking at me straight in the eyes while holding me by the shoulder, says,
Please forgive me. I've been terribly inconsiderate. Of course, you couldn't have known what would happen. I keep forgetting you're not from here. And besides, no one told you what was happening in the village. So I'm begging you, please don't feel guilty. It's us, the Meltaires, and the others who should feel guilty for not having warned you.
Something else to tell me?
I'm afraid I do. I believe my father made you an offer at the cocktail party, didn't he?
Sorry, but I told him to get lost before he started sharing any details.
Oh, yeah, okay. Sum it up. He wants to get inside the tower. If he hasn't come yet, it's that he is building a file with the city hall. Celine is on in on this. He's making her work day in and day out.
I'm sorry for her.
He wants to frame everything before telling you all of his plans.
What can he really do to me? The house is legally mine. He can't throw me out like that for no reason.
Maybe, but I assure you, he's not joking around. Whatever happens, you mustn't accept the deal.
Why are you so eager for me to refuse?
I know Aves, whether I wanted it or not. I've been dealing with him daily since I was born. He's a shark, and considering how much he resents the Delatours, I can assure you that he's going to do something that serves his interests, but mostly harms you.
Do you know what's inside the tower that would be this precious?
According to the legends, the tower would have been built on a kind of magical vortex. I feel stupid saying that.
Of course not. It would explain a lot.
The Delatours have always been an influential family in the area. Your family has kept their traditions despite the law. The name Delatour of the tower goes from mother to daughter, with the eldest daughter being the spiritual guide to the community. A kind of Celtic great priestess, if you see what I mean. Since, well, Christianity never really got big around here, as you must have noticed. Story tells that your ancestor, the great priestess, had a dispute with my ancestor, and my family had no choice but to curse yours to save their honor. Since then, the Maltaires began to accumulate their wealth and prosper while the Delatours went downhill.
Let's assume what you're saying is true. It all happened a long time ago. Why keep this old quarrel alive? I didn't do anything to harm your family, and besides, looks like the Maltaires have already won the game, haven't they?
They still don't have the tower. My understanding is that these blessings have a price, and all my father wants is to lift the curse that also waits on my family. And the tower would be the key to all of this. But I can't let Ives get inside because he...
Oh, wrong voice. But I can't let Ives go inside because he could want to hurt me?
Exactly.
It may sound stupid, but I have to ask. Do you know where the entrance is for the tower?
I don't, but everyone in the village knows that it's been condemned after the events that tore both our families apart.
Why did no one tell me then?
Don't judge the villagers too harshly. They're naturally suspicious, especially when it comes to us.
Should I prepare myself for other revelations, or are you done?
I guess I told you most of it, in broad outline, but you must have 1,000 questions.
Yeah, I'd be more concerned about the daddy's plans. Tell me more about your father's plans.
As I was saying, he went to get inside the tower, and he will stop at nothing. As I know him, he's going to try to win you over at first. He's currently building a file with the City Hall open in the tower, while on the other hand, they would pay for all the maintenance costs.
It could be worth it to at least hear what he offers, don't you think? The costs to keep the castle afloat are nothing to sneeze at, and the money I got with the legacy isn't inexhaustible.
I don't have any other way to say it, and I don't have any proof except my experience and the trust you may put in my word. But I assure you, accept anything coming from my father is a very bad idea. During the time of your grandmother, he was resigned not to get into the tower. But now that things have changed, he wants to take advantage of the opportunity. I'm sure he's about to come over with a very attractive financial setup, and he's counting on your supposed naivety to get what he's after.
Alright, let's say I refuse. What happens next?
Depends.
Depends on what?
Depends on whether or not you believe in all this witchcraft stuff.
It always goes back to that, right?
Maybe, but it's a very lively notion for the people who live here. And then whatever your position on this question is, Ives' threats are very real. You won't be the first to oppose them. But you have a lot of cards in your deck to manage to be the last.
Okay. Tell me about your family. Your family, I must admit I'm curious. Can you tell me more about them?
I think you've already grasped the ins and the outs. On one hand, there's my parents, Yves and Clotilde. We've been on bad terms since I'm old enough to understand the way they think.
What do you mean?
How can I sum up the Maltaire way? I would say manipulation and extortion under the cover of good education. If that doesn't work, they throw money in the general direction of the problem until it's nice enough to disappear.
Charming. Why do they stay in the village? But I'm asking myself, why do they stay in the village? I mean, with so much wealth, they could live anywhere, couldn't they?
You mean less far from civilization? You're not wrong, but don't forget, they're very attached to the area with their beliefs. They're too afraid they might lose their blessings if they leave, I guess. And yet, I'm only speculating. Yves decided I wasn't fit to be the top-rank heir long before I was old enough to be in the know.
What about you? Have you ever thought about leaving?
Of course, I did. But with Celine and her son stuck here, I could resolve myself to leave them alone in the mouth of madness.
Sure, makes sense.
Besides, I strongly suspect my father might be more or less responsible for the death of Celine's husband.
Whoa!
A nice accidental death like he enjoys them, be it supernatural or not. After all, since his own son wouldn't do, he needed an heir to pass on his great values, right?
But it's awful.
Welcome to my world. Of course, I'm doing my best to protect Pierre from all this, but I'm afraid I've already lost the war. He idealizes.
I think there's a lot of spelling errors and grammatical errors in this game. I think it's because it was probably French, and then they translated it to English, but it's not perfect.
Of course, and with the reasons, he could be a very nice guy when he wants to. As for Celine, she's always been kept out of this. She was the perfect daughter. My parents, with their traditional values, didn't have a lot of ambition for her. I think they wanted from their daughter was a nice wedding that would profitably help the family affairs.
Stan stops talking, staring at nothing. I don't know what else to say. Finally, he's the one to break the silence before it becomes too awkward.
Well, that's it. You know everything.
I don't want to know nothing about him. I'm not trying to fall in love with this guy. I've nothing else to ask you.
There's one more thing I wanted to ask you.
His eyes say a lot about the kind of subject we're about to discuss. That's on the one hand, Frank is still in the picture. Is he though? But on the other hand, what am I risking by checking if the grass is greener on the other side? Why? I've chosen everything to avoid any men for you. We're not ready to date. Spend the night with Stan? Ugh. No. See him to the door. Get out. Get out of my house. I know what you're about to say. I thought it was clear. I'm sorry, but
Spare me the "it's not you, it's me" speech. I get it. If you change your mind, you know where to find me.
Days go by, and still nothing from Yves Maltaire. I must admit I'm a bit worried with what he might be planning for me. I try not to think too much about it. What am I really risking? Even if I decided to let the hypotheses of the supernatural into my life, I have the strange feeling that nothing can happen to me, even from a curse from the Maltaires. Maybe it's a bit presumptuous, but I feel like my family name acts like a kind of lucky charm, protecting me from anything bad. There's also the Bortines. It's been a while. I'm thinking about Celine Maltaire from time to time. I'm not sure I figured her out, but I felt there was something going on when I met her at the cocktail party. Perhaps I could call her. Maybe we could see each other again. What should I do? Get a girlfriend, girl. Might even be literal. When I call Celine, she's a bit surprised to hear from me, but she quickly warms up to the idea of having a coffee together. We meet up in the afternoon in a small tea room with a terrace that opens on a public square. Celine is waiting for me, cup in hand, while overlooking her son playing with the other children on the playground next to the terrace. The choice of the place becomes suddenly limpid, and I understand the strategic location it represents for the young mothers of the village. But since my pregnancy accident, I avoid this kind of place like the plague, as it tends to bring back a ball of bad memories. Though I have tried to keep my composure as I take place in front of Celine, I guess I don't do a very good job of it, since she asked me with a worried look on her face, "Are you alright?" Let's get some sympathy. Yeah, sorry, it's the kind of coffee shop with its playground. It reminds me of a difficult part of my life. Oh, yes, of course, what an idiot. I should have guessed. You're Delator, after all. What do you mean? Well, Delators have always had fecundity issues. There's a hushed silence. Sorry, that was inconsiderate. No, it's nothing. It's me. I can't let this episode haunt me so easily, or I'll never get past it. We're not gonna dig any further. I'd rather not talk about it if you don't mind. Yes, of course. I understand perfectly. We chit-chat for a while. We're cut off from time to time by Pierre Yves, who wants to show us a very fascinating stone to ask for a cookie, or tell us about the incredible adventure that just happened to him in the playground's fort. That's Celine, who finally goes right in the thick of it, telling me from nowhere. So now that we're with the niceties, we can get into the real reason you called, don't you think? I'm quite sure Stan has told you about my father's plan. You want to get it out of me, don't you? Our conversation has suddenly taken a strange turn, and I feel like I'm on a minefield. I'll have to choose very carefully what I say next. Let's just go for it. I didn't come for that, but since you're asking, I must admit I'm a bit curious to know more. Oh, I knew it. You, the Delators, are really all the same. But no, I knew it. It was too good to be true that you had a hidden agenda when you called. She gets up and, looking at me scornfully, says, "Don't waste your time. You won't get anything out of me." She takes her son by the hand, and they both leave in a haste. As for me, I stay there, dumbstruck and a bit wounded by what happened. Even if I don't have any proof, I'm sure her disproportionate reaction is the result of Eve's undermining my efforts. I pay the bill before going back to the castle. What should I do next? We're gonna go to the Bortines, apparently. When I knock at the outbuilding's door, it's Mrs. Bortine who answers. Oh, hello, miss. What brings you here? It seems she's put her knit work aside to greet me. Next to the fire in an armchair, I make out the silhouette of Mr. Bortine. He looks at me from behind his newspaper, the local Daily News, and puffs on his pipe as I enter the room. He greets me with a nod. I was just checking in. It's been a while since we saw each other. Yes, you're right. Time flies. When we heard about Mrs. Levesque, we were sorry for this poor woman, my husband and I. Smells like another trick of the Maltese, if you're asking me. But it doesn't make sense. Why would the Maltese want to get rid of a housewife? Do you mean that you knew her, miss? Well, knowing her is a big word. She was the mother of one of my students, and she had... How can I put it? Let's say she had some preconceived notions about the Delatours. Mrs. Bortine turns white. But, excuse me to say it bluntly, but have you cursed this poor woman? Before I have a chance to answer, she goes on. Without knowing, miss, how could you have guessed? Did you hear that, Gerard? We should have warned her. Mr. Bortine puts the newspaper down on his knees and looks around with a piercing gaze. Come on, Gilbert. You were saying just a couple days ago that these stories were nothing but stories. If I'd guessed... You must realize that what you're saying doesn't exist, Mrs. Bortine. Curses, you don't make people have car accidents just like that, with the power of the mind. I'm afraid you're wrong, miss. You don't know the legends of the village. All right then, tell me about it. Feels like there's a lot of things I'm missing about the village. My family, the Maltese. Tell me what you know about this so-called curse. I can't tell you much about this, miss. The Delatours were known to be miracle makers, but it's been ages since anything like that ever happened. It was before I was born, but they used to say that your family had a gift. Can you tell me what happened with Mrs. Levesque? Maybe it will jog up my memory. I tell her what happened. Maybe that's the words you said, without knowing. And also your wound. That must be the thing that unleashed the spell. But, no way. I refuse to believe that saying something, anything, could have the consequence of killing someone. Do you realize what you're saying? It's sad your grandmother is no longer with us. She would have explained everything to you. Yes, I guess I'd have liked to get the step-by-step guide on how not to kill your neighbor. And yet, I still think it's a trick of the Maltese. It would be very twisted, don't you think? Ah, well, nothing surprises me with these thugs. By the way, Gerard saw Maltaire's son's car in the yard the other day. Didn't you, Gerard? He didn't bother you, I hope, did he? Yes, he visited me, indeed. Don't worry, he behaved himself. I'm glad to hear that. If he bothers you, give us a call. Gerard has long since been looking for an excuse to shoot a cartridge in the rear of this one. Thank you. But I don't think that would be necessary. Tell me more about Mrs. Levesque. You seem to know her.
Knowing her is a big word. Let's just say she was the talk of the village some years back.
Really? Why?
Her husband was a brute, the kind who drinks too much, if you see what I mean. There were several incidents. It went on for a couple of years. Beatrice Levesque would never have filed for divorce. And then Yves Maltaire supported her when her husband disappeared.
Disappeared? What do you mean? Did he pass away?
No, well, I don't know. Just like that, he disappeared. It is said that Yves Maltaire would have driven him out of the village. Beatrice Levesque was sure it was thanks to the Maltaires, and she was working at the city hall. Well, you'd better not get caught on saying all ill of Mr. Mayor when she was around.
I understand. That said, Yves did a good thing on this one, didn't he?
Depends. No one really knows what happened to Levesque, and even so, a nice gesture once doesn't redeem you from a life of bad deeds, don't you think?
But it means her son, Jean-Baptiste, is an orphan.
Well, yes, but don't worry too much about him. Her aunt took him in. You must know her. She's the wife of the fishmonger, at the market.
It's a good family. I'm sure they'll take care of him as if he was their son. I suppose he'll be none the worse for it. Tell me what you know about the tower and the local legends.
What do you want to know, precisely?
Clotilde Maltaire told me that as long as I had the tower, I would be a threat to them. What did she mean?
Oh, well, that must have come from the stories about the tower, but I'm not sure I know much more.
Tell me what you know.
What they say is that the region is magic. Used to be a place of pilgrimage in the old times, people coming to be healed or to join the festivities for the passing of the seasons. I can't tell you why, but the legends say that your ancestors used to perform miracles.
My ancestors, the Delatours.
Yes, the Delatours.
But it was before they built the tower. I don't know how they were called back then.
Also, your family had the duty of protecting the village. As the place was said to be magic, it would draw demons, and there were rituals to perform so that the source of power wasn't polluted by these evil spirits. When the Christians colonized the country, the region closed upon itself. People from the village built the tower on top of the source to keep it secret, and the village became a place of memory. I didn't know this period. It was way before I was born. It's my grandmother who told me the stories from before the Maltaires came around.
What are the Maltaires doing in all of this?
It began with Yves' grandfather, the old Gustave Maltaire. When he was a child, the Delatours took him in at the castle because he had a gift for miracles. He was an orphan coming from the marshes. To be welcomed like that was a great chance, but apparently it wasn't enough for him. He wanted more. I've known him a little. He was already an old man, but a difficult character. I recall he used to give me the creeps when I was a child. Anyways, it's since about that time that the Maltaires began to amass their wealth. That's when the accidents started to happen. If anyone went against the Maltaires, something bad happened to them. Every time. And then the Delatours began to go downhill. In the end, there was only your grandfather left. And then you came.
Why did you wait to tell me all this?
You were from the city. You didn't know any of this. If we had told you about spirits of the forest or a magical source, what would you have thought? And yet, we thought it was only old stories. We weren't born at the time of the miracles, and we don't know how much anyway, my husband and I.
I have to go.
Thanks for answering my questions. So you know everything. Well, Gerard, we told her everything, didn't we? Monsieur Bortine puffs on his pipe, then nods in agreement.
We're just the wardens. My wife and I. We're never in the know. Your grandmother, she could have told you. Warned you.
But everything he said, it's a hard pill to swallow. Curse, a magic source, evil spirits.
Whether you want it or not, it's in your blood, miss. It's your legacy.
What should I do next? I guess wait for Yves Maltaire. Days, then weeks go by, and Yves Maltaire continues to shine by his absence. I try to concentrate on my classes at school, but after all these revelations, I have a hard time focusing. And to top it all, the director told me I would be inspected by the local education authority, which adds to the general climate of anxiety. I'm in the forest. It's the same dream again. The one I had last month. I have a feeling of déjà vu, but something has changed. I run to escape this presence that follows me. Once again I get to the pool in the clearing. I draw closer to catch my reflection. It's a different image, as if something has changed. But at the same time, it's more precise, almost more real. My hair is short and blonde, and I'm wearing a very fashionable outfit. I'm fascinated by the strangeness of this image, a complete opposite of what I look like now. I've never worn my hair short, but I surprised myself finding it quite attractive. I touch the reflection, and after a moment of darkness, I'm in the garden again. When I get to the statue of the Sphinx, its gaze is different. She looks forward with defiance and determination. That's when everything changes. I'm moved by the strength and stability that seems to emanate from the statue. This time, I don't let myself fall into the darkness. This time, I find the courage to turn around and confront the threat the Sphinx is staring at with her inflexible look. That's when I see the beast for the first time. We watch each other for a second that seems to last forever. Then, without notice, the beast throws itself at me. It's when its claws are about to lacerate my belly that I wake up screaming and sweating. Chapter 5, December. I'm about to go to the market when I hear a car coming up the path. I'm surprised to see a big black sedan parked in the yard. But when I see the large silhouette with graying hair coming out of the driver's seat, I realize it's Yves Maltaire. To be honest, more than 1 month after the cocktail party, I wasn't waiting for him anymore. He waves at me, goes around the car, takes a big file from the passenger seat, then walks in my direction. He's brandishing his file like a trophy.
Good evening, Daphne. As you can witness, we've been working very hard, my daughter and I.
Well, let's hear him out. I'm listening.
Ah, thank you for giving me a little of your time. You'll see, it's a very interesting prospect. The general idea would be to open the tower to the tourists during the summer season. We could do a guided tour, and there's the library.
You mean there's a library inside the tower?
Oh, didn't you know? Didn't you get inside the tower? Interesting.
Well,
Never mind. Would you mind inviting me in? We would be more at ease. Today's a bit cold outside.
In the corner of my eye, I noticed Mr. Bortine walking up the path, a rifle in his hand.
Hello, Miss Daphne. Mr. Maltaire.
He stands by my side, gun in hand, as if he was ready to use it.
Are you alright? Mr. Maltaire isn't bothering you, I hope. Listen, Gerard, I was just chatting with Miss Delatour. If you don't mind giving us some privacy, please.
Ooh. Mr. Motel was about... we hear a car going to the path, and we all direct our attention to the entrance of the yard. A small rental car gets inside and parks next to the castle's front door. A tall woman of a certain age gets out of the car and walks towards us with assured pace. Mom? Holy crap, it's her mom! Sophie Delatour. I guess it's high time I arrived. Looking at Yves Maltaire, she says, Hello, Daphne. Gerard.
Yes, madam.
Please fire a warning shot, will you? Mr. Bortine looks at me, waiting for a confirmation. As I'm not reacting, he complies and fires upward. Yves lost his smile and looks at my mother sideways.
Listen, Sophie, be reasonable for a change. We haven't seen each other for 30 years. Do you really want...
Completely ignoring Yves Maltaire, my mother turns to Mr. Bortine. Gerard.
Yes, madam.
You can fire the second shot at Yves if he hasn't left the property in 30 seconds.
Very well, madam.
Then, I'd like you to bring my luggage to the yellow bedroom in the west wing.
Of course, madam.
Oh, and send Gilberta, please. I'd like her to make us a coffee. I need to have a talk with my daughter. Ooh, this is getting good! Her mom is back! I follow Mom into the living room. A few seconds later, we hear the sound of squealing tires in the courtyard, and the noise of the engine dying in the distance. Did you get my letter? Yes, but in September, as you can witness, I had already accepted the heritage. But I don't understand. Why did you need to warn me? Are you kidding? I arrived finding Yves Maltaire in the courtyard, and you're asking me why I warned you? I came back as fast as I could possibly could, but it seems it was too late anyway. What were you doing in Asia? When you got your scholarship, your life was on track, and I no longer had to worry about your future. So I decided to go back to school. I had enough of going from crap job to another, so I took a corresponding course on international trade. 3 years ago, I was hired by an investment bank. They quickly offered me a promotion, but I had to move to Hong Kong. Since you had burned the bridges and I thought you were safe, anyways, safe from these family issues, I agreed to go. How could I foresee your grandmother would pull this trick on me? Even in the grave, she continues being a nuisance. I sent you this letter as soon as I heard your grandmother was dead, thanks to the family notary who contacted me out of courtesy. I tried to take a leave of absence, but I was working on a large deal, and my bosses insisted I stayed until we signed. Of course, it took longer than I would have liked. Something doesn't add up. You were the direct heiress, so you should have been the one to succeed, shouldn't you? Your grandmother made me sign a paper stipulating I was renouncing the inheritance when I left the village.
I thought I would protect you, but I'm not a lawyer, and knowing your grandmother, she must have found a way to bend the law her way. She must have foreseen it would happen that way. You need to tell me. On one side, grandmother seems to have planned everything to make sure I got the house, and on the other, you're telling me I should have refused the inheritance. I know the village is a nest of vipers, with the Maltaires and the Delatour's reputation, but don't you think I had the right to know my origins? I don't think you're grasping the gravity of the situation. Until then, Eves didn't know you existed. Now that he knows who you are, it changes everything. Tell me then, why cut me off from the rest of the family? Why putting so much effort to keep me in the dark? Very well. Listen carefully and answer me honestly, can you? I nod in agreement. Did you have strange dreams? Yes, maybe. But I don't see what's unusual about that, Mom. About a sphinx, right? How do you know that? And a kind of presence in the forest? But she cuts me off before I could go on. Were there strange accidents since you came here? Oh no, not you too. Can I conclude it? Say yes. And I suppose it happened to someone who's harmed you, right? She had a car accident. I'm not responsible, god damn it. With a hand gesture, she asked me to stop talking. Another thing. Did you find the entrance of the tower? No, I didn't. No one was able to tell me where it was. Okay. What do you think is inside? I'd rather see myself. I have my idea, but I'd rather see for myself. I recognize here your scientific mind. You need for proof. Your need for proof. I only trust what I see. And that's probably your best defense against what's happening in the village. I didn't notice her coming in, but Mrs. Bortine is serving us a cup of coffee. Gilbert? Yes, madam. Tell Gerard to come to the basement. Very well, madam. Will it be all? No. Ask him to bring a pickaxe, please. We're gonna get in that tower. I follow Mom to the basement. We go through the wine cellar, then we take a corridor. We go through a little room, then another, where some old furniture was stored. There's an old tapestry depicting a hunt, which almost entirely covers the wall in front of us. I don't remember going in there during my expedition when I was myself looking for the entrance tower. Do you feel something? I get closer to the wall, trying to feel a draft or a small change of temperature that would reveal the location of a door. No, I'm sorry. What should I feel? I see a great relief coming over the face of my mother, her features relaxing instantly. As I'm about to talk again, we hear a noise coming from behind. Ah, here comes Gerard. Gerard, can you take down the tapestry, please? Mr. Bortine complies and I jump in to help him. Let Gerard do it, Daphne. You're going to get dirty. Mom, you're exaggerating. Mr. Bortine is not your slave. Yes, you're right. I just got here and I'm back to my old ways. When I've left everything behind so that you wouldn't be raised with these horrendous values. Excuse me, Gerard. I'll be more considerate.
You know, with me, Gilbert, with my Gilbert, we're happy to lend a hand. We don't do this for you, but for your daughter. But don't forget, we're retired. We're no longer in our prime.
We moved the tapestry to the other side of the room. Mom and I on one side, and Mr. Bortine on the other. Could you break the wall here, Gerard? She points to a location in the middle of the wall. There are some planks behind the plaster. It shouldn't give you much resistance. And indeed, a few minutes later, the planks that were hiding the entrance of the tower have been torn apart, revealing a wooden door.
Oh my, I never would have guessed the door was there.
Mom opens the drawer of a nearby cupboard and takes out a large, finely worked key. Do you want to see what's inside, Gerard?
Oh no, madam. I'll come back later. You must have a lot to discuss with your daughter. I'll go back home. You don't need a guy anymore.
Of course. Thank you, Gerard. Mr. Bortine salutes us with a nod. Oh, and Gerard,
Yes.
thank you for taking care of Daphne during my absence. We get inside the tower, and after going up a flight of stairs, I discover a large room dimmed in darkness. Mom takes a candelabra from a table and lights up the candles with the matches that have been left next to it. Then she proceeds to light the other candles spread all around the room, and little by little, a soft light illuminates the large circular space. The floor is made of huge granite stone on which were carved an interlacing of geometric shapes. The Celtic origins are obvious in the pattern used and the way the ornaments were done, but they are very well preserved in contrast with most ruins from antiquity that have been exposed to centuries of bad weather. The walls are covered with shelves loaded with documents, either books with leather covers or scrolls rolled upon themselves. We stay quiet for a while, then Mom breaks the silence. This is your legacy, Daphne. What's inside all these books? It's the memory of the village. The most ancient were written by our ancestors 1,000 years ago. The tower was built on the site of the old place of worship because there seems to be some kind of magnetic anomaly that helps preserve them. It's a bit far-fetched, but yes, I guess a local perturbation in the magnetic field of the planet might explain this. I guess that if I brought a compass in here, the needle would spin erratically, wouldn't it? Mom looks at me dubiously. What? What? I can be a scientist and still have an open mind. You're on the site of pilgrimage of the antiquity, a place where they performed the miracles. When the country was colonized and the inhabitants had to convert to the new religion, the region closed upon itself. Our ancestors built the tower and began compiling all the oral knowledge of the old times. The Delators, the Order of the Priestesses, have welcomed the representatives of the other cults coming from everywhere, trying to escape persecution and wanting their knowledge to survive at any price. To sum it up, you're inside one of the largest libraries of occult knowledge in the world. We silently go back to the living room. The ambiance is ominous, and it feels like what just happened will have a huge impact on my future. Mom takes an armchair. I sit on the sofa. So do you understand why Yves Maltaire can't at any cost get inside the tower? Because it would give them even more power in the village? Exactly. To my great relief, you don't seem to exhibit any predisposition for the miracles, but do you understand why our ancestors protected the library? Let's pick this one. Yves Maltaire has been abusing his dominant position for too long. I can't let him go on any longer. Even if I don't believe in witchcraft, It's high time someone puts him in his place. I agree with you completely. Ease will be back soon enough, but now that he knows you're back, he might be less polite and obsequious. In that case, we'll have to be on our guard. Exactly. But enough talking about all this. Tell me about your life and about all I've missed. We stayed there for a long while, Mom and I, chatting in the living room. Then I go get some groceries at the market and we prepare dinner together, both enjoying this renewed complicity. A couple of days later, I'm at the bakery getting some bread. Just when I've paid it, I'm leaving, I find myself face to face with Celine Maltaire and her son. There's a moment of surprise, and as I'm about to greet her, she starts yelling at me copiously. Ah, congratulations. I'm glad I came across you. I haven't had the opportunity to congratulate you on the classy way you welcomed my father. I try to be nice. I even agreed to have coffee with you, despite the reputation of the delators. And 2 weeks later, you welcomed my father with a rifle. If I didn't have my son with me, I'm not sure. Man, I'm starting to hate these people, but should we be nice for this moment right here while we're in the bakery? I'm sorry, but your father didn't come at the best time. Ah, sure, it's about Sophie, right? Like mother, like daughter, as they say. I don't even know why I'm surprised. Listen, Celine, I'm sorry Ives made you work on this file, but I didn't ask him to make me any offer. You're right. I keep forgetting you're just a school teacher. It's not as if you knew what work means. Oh, I have to go. You see one of us. Oh, well. She turns on her heel. Wait, can I go back? Oh, no. I don't want to go back that far. Yikes. And most of all, by the way, her father manipulates her. Oh, sorry. That's not her voice. What a shame. Okay. After all these emotions, the tower, Yves Maltaire, life took back its normal course. Of course, I'm still concerned about what the Maltaires might do next, now that Mom is back at the castle. I had Frank on the phone, but he seemed to have something else on his mind. He told me he would be back and we'd have to talk. I don't know what to make of it. With all these adventures, I had completely forgotten about my impending inspection at school. So when I find this man in a suit waiting in front of my classroom the following week, I'm a bit caught off guard. He introduces himself as Mr. Mueller, National Education Inspector. He tells me he'll be following me all day and observe the way I teach mathematics. He takes a seat at the back of the classroom and starts taking notes. I teach my class as usual. I see the man make a face while I'm explaining with clarity and verve a slightly complex theorem. I decide to put his grimace on the count of some lackings in basic geometry from his part, and I go on teaching without letting it bother me. At the end of the day, Mueller greets me coldly, criticizing my method as being maladjusted for middle school students. I try to defend myself more and more vehemently against his so-called authority, who stays deaf to my logic and my arguments. When I get into my car to drive back home, I'm already fuming. As I park into the yard, I discover that Frank's van is already there. I prepare myself for a difficult conversation about our future. As soon as I'm out of the car, I see him waiting for me at the threshold. Oh wait, Sonic the Hedgehog, let's go. Daphne! Hello, Frank. We need to talk. I follow him into the living room. I can see he's fuming. I haven't seen him in this state of cold anger for a very long time. Not since the day I've taken my things and left them 6 months ago. Our relationship is at a crossroad again, and I'll have to choose my words carefully if I want to avoid a bloodbath. I came across your method. Oh, crap. Your mother, she told me to do what I had to, and you shouldn't wait for her dinner. Okay. We stay silent for a while, carefully avoiding each other's gaze. Frank ends up breaking the silence. He takes a big breath and spits out. I am struggling with the voice. I don't like the situation one bit. It can't go any longer. I know I probably forced your hand when I moved into the village without consulting you. Besides, you've been acting strange since I came here. Ooh, I don't want to lose you. I don't want us to get back together or out of my house. I don't want us to get back together. At least it's clear. I didn't want to admit it, but I felt it. It's this inheritance, all these stories from the village. It all went to your head. People from the village are right when they say that you, the Delators, are all witches. I heard gossip about what you did to this poor Miss Levesque. Wow, this dude has really gone on that you're wrong. You know me. I'm a scientist. How can you say that to me? These stories went to your head. Just look at yourself. I don't recognize you anymore. You changed the way you dress and your hair with the side part. What? Never mind. It's no longer my problem. I have said my part. Farewell, Daphne. I wish you a lot of happiness with your castle and your Maltaires. He gets up, looking down on me with horrendous disdain. Then he leaves the room. When I hear the engine of the van disappear into the distance, I'm struck by the conviction that I will never see him again. Yeah, I know that feeling, girl. After Frank has left, I stay alone in the living room, dumbstruck for a long time. Then, without notice, I burst into tears. How could he be so cruel? I had forgotten how much he could hurt me. When I think he even called me a witch. Me. I have a PhD in mathematics, god damn it. When the tears finally dry up, I pour myself a glass of white wine from the fridge and decide that I deserve a cigarette to calm my nerves. As I walk across the house, I realize my mother has made herself extremely discreet. I don't know if I should be grateful or blame her again for having her ways to avoid the situation. I go to my bedroom to take my pack of cigarettes, light one up, and let myself fall at the foot of the bed. I realize I'm in front of the mirror. The image reflected is that of a young woman, a bit pale, with her makeup smeared on her face. Besides, I realize my hair is all messed up. Suddenly I decide that I have seen enough of this halo of long hair that falls in my eyes. Oh, she's going short hair. Without hesitation, I take a pair of scissors, conveniently stored at arm's length in the sewing box. I gather the strands at the back of my hair and give several raging snips until I'm left with a long auburn ponytail in my hand. I feel somewhat better, seeing my face framed by this uneven bob, the mirror sending back to me, almost freed. I decide the evening has been loaded with enough strong emotions. I undress and get under the covers in my underwear, leaving a mess of clothes and snipped hair where it fell at the foot of the bed. When I wake up the next morning, it takes a while for everything to come back to my memory. But when I touch my hair and discover the strands are way shorter than they should be, it all comes back to me. The inspector, Frank's departure. I take a quick breakfast and a shower, then it's time to get dressed. I have more than enough hearing everyone call me a witch
So I decided to give up, for now, any item that may cast any doubt about my views on this matter. Instead of putting on my usual clothes, I choose a shiny black pair of leggings and a nice top that I could couple with a long golden necklace. Inspecting my reflection in the mirror, I'm quite satisfied with my choices, but I can't deny the evidence. My skills as a hairdresser are not very sharp. A phone call later, just to make sure they can fit me in, I'm sitting in front of a mirror at the hair salon of the village. The cosmetologist, hairdresser, has given me a magazine with a whole bunch of hairstyles to choose from, not without telling me that I had made a big mess when I told her about what I've done. I'm leafing through it frantically, trying to find the cut that would best answer my need for change, when she finally decides to put me out of my misery. Found anything you like? I'm not sure. What would you recommend? I assume you're in for a brand new look, aren't you? She opens the magazine at a page showing the picture of a young woman who's wearing some sort of very blonde and very edgy short bob, the complete opposite of my old style. You're lucky. You have the perfect bone structure for this kind of geometric hairstyle. What do you think of this one? Moved by this sudden impulsion, I hear myself answering, "That looks just perfect. Should I make you a platinum blonde too?" This time I hesitate a second before asking myself what I'm risking. "Sure, make me blonde while you're at it." We chit-chat while she snips around at my hair. I'm surprised not to be more panicked seeing the massive hair that's piling up on the floor at the salon. Then she bleaches and dyes what's left, and with the help of a large amount of gel, spray, and a sophisticated hair-blowing technique, I watch the new Daphne emerge. I take a minute to contemplate my reflection before leaving the chair. I'm pleased to see that the distinctive attributes usually given to witches have been completely erased. On the contrary, the mirror sends back the image of a confident woman, spirited and sure of herself. This new haircut will probably be harder to maintain than my old longer hair, but I guess it's a price I'm ready to pay. With a smile on my lips, I pay and jump into my car to go perform my duties. The holiday season came very fast. I spend them at home with Mom and the Bortines. No news from Yves Maltaire, not since he came to show me his offer and his plans were stopped by Mom. I've decided not to worry about it yet. I need time to get over everything I learned. I feel somehow powerless against this threat. But I know my best weapon against the local obscurantism is still my Cartesian and scientific mind. I took advantage of the school break to prepare my classes in advance, so I went ahead onto the program of the next semester. It helps me take my mind off things. Preparing basic geometry exercises helps me clear my mind. I still have these strange dreams, but they're different now. I'm still in the forest, but the episodes of the pool and the Sphinx don't occur anymore. I must admit, I've given up trying to make sense out of any of it. Every time the dream ends up with my meeting with the strange beast, we look at each other for a while. I have this feeling it's trying to tell me something, but can't put it into words. As if it wanted something from me. Then it hurts itself at me and I wake up and sweat. It hurls itself at me and I wake up and sweat. Chapter 6. January. Okay, I gotta stop here. But it's getting good. I like it. Here we go. Where do I quit the game?